This podcast is proud to be part of the TalkSport Fan Network. TalkSport. Powered by fans.
So good evening and welcome to another edition of the Away End. I am this evening joined by Jay Thomas from the That Millwall Podcast. Good evening, Jay, and thank you for sparing us some time.
No problem, Craig. Thank you very much for having me, and hope I don't upset Blues fans too much. But yeah,
all light-hearted banter. All light-hearted banter.
Yeah, always.
Obviously, tell us a little bit about your podcast. How long you've been going, and what you get up to, really.
So the podcast, That Millwall Podcast, has been going with live streams for about a year now. Obviously, phone-ins before that. Myself, I've not been with the podcast very long, but it's been great to get involved with the guys and with Mick over there and the others, because it's something great for the fans to be involved with, like yourself, Craig, with what you do. Having somewhere where the fans could go to vent their frustrations or maybe discuss the game or just listen to people talk about it and get involved together. I think it's been a real sort of uptrend with a lot of clubs as well recently, especially with what we're doing at the moment. And it's been really, really good, and a lot of good responses as well. So only good things, mate, to be fair.
That's good. And we've been going for that a little bit longer. I mean, this is our 13th season now for Tilton Talk, but we started off with just a few people on Facebook and now have the followers across all of the channels. But we did things across the time of COVID, and we kept broadcasting to keep the joviality there, even though there was no football. It was still good to have a chat, and we also just branched out with some players and people joining us have passed as well. Some of which I'll be mentioning in a wee while as we discuss players that have overlapped between the clubs. So, I mean, let's get it over and done with now. We always have a bit of fun, and there's a hell of a lot of banter between Birmingham and Millwall. We've had some fantastic games in the past, some really enjoyable ones, some not so enjoyable. For me, I still stick by. There's two games that spring to mind for me against Millwall. Obviously,
I think I might have one.
I bet you can get one of them. There's obviously the playoff semi-final is one that never disappears. For the good reason and the bad reason, unfortunately, from that point of view. But many a times that's occurred, and it's slowly disappearing, which is great. And then, of course, the other one was when our friend Nikola Zigic basically destroyed you, and he single-handedly destroyed the Millwall team. And I don't think I'd ever seen him play that well before.
Oh, he was such a problem, and it was so frustrating because I just never ever thought of him as being that good. But up against Millwall, there was just something about Millwall. Like, these players have something where they come to the Den or they play Millwall and they turn into like the best thing since sliced bread. They're the best midfielder in the world, or they're the best striker in the world. We have a few players that have been like that down the years. Marlon King, resident of yourselves, he was like that down the years for us, and all he tortured us. But yeah, I've got a couple more recents, should I say, that spring to mind for good and bad from my perspective. But I'm looking at the 6-0 hammering that we took not too long ago, where we got 2 red cards. But the strange thing about that game, Craig, was that we actually played really well in that game. We had a lot of attempts, we had a lot of shots on goal, and created a lot. The red cards were probably a bit dubious. Even Horton said himself, they weren't they? But if it was 11 men on the field, I don't know if it would have been 6-0, but it's the first sort of time. Yeah, I mean, it was the first sort of time. It's been a couple of times against Birmingham where we've played really, really well. Come off the end of what would seemingly be, if you looked at the score on paper, a hammering. But we've actually given ourselves some food for thought with the performances. And I remember when Marlon King, we gave him a lot of trash talks, should we say, and then he went and sprung up, and if I remember right, he scored a hat trick. And quietened everybody up. So we didn't do that again to my knowledge for quite a while.
It tends to be the case, I think, across both the games at St Andrews and also down at the Dennies. There's always that, like you said, build up and banter between the fans. That when it's controlled, you cannot beat it. I mean, I used to work with a guy, still friends with him now, and he is strangely a Birmingham City season ticket holder. He is a Burnley fan as well because his dad supports them, and he's a Millwall fan. So whenever Birmingham are playing, obviously he's down there, but also he does. Whenever there's a games that they overlap, he will come down to the Den and watch Millwall as well. And actually, he brings somebody that I'll go on to mention in a wee while as well. So it's great. I love it. I think when it's controlled banter, it's absolutely superb, and you can't beat it. And there's always a laugh between them. We always, opportunity to slate each other and have a bit of fun, but never overstep.
Oh, without a doubt. This year, I was at St Andrews for the 1-1 draw back in September, and I parked just across the road. There was a load of roadworks going on up the main road, and it was hard to get somewhere to park. So I parked on this little street just opposite where a lot of people parked. And there was this old gentleman coming down. I don't want to say his age too much. He was an elderly gentleman, and we had such a nice, friendly chat about the game, about the two club situations, and row, because there's obviously some links there. And we had such a friendly chat, and he predicted a 1-0 Birmingham win, and I predicted a 1-0 Millwall win, and we sort of honours were even. And I saw him, funny enough, as I was walking out back to my car, and sort of both just sort of had a look of, well, it's that again, because it's not been many games recently where the honours have gone the other way. It's been a fair few draws. I think over the last sort of 10 games or so, we've nicked a couple, which hasn't been the case in years past. We've always been sort of Birmingham have always been a bit of a trouble team for us. So we've had a couple wins, but lately it's they're very feisty, very atmospheric, very sort of hard fought games between Birmingham and Millwall. Two of the proper, I like to call old-fashioned football clubs.
Old school clubs.
They have lots, old school clubs with some old school football fans with morals, and and we're all about the club, and money would destroy us type attitude. We don't like the day trippers turning up, but we also want money. We can't have the best of both worlds. So proper old-fashioned football clubs. And like you just said, the banter when kept as banter there's not too many teams in English football. I'd like to add that can sort of have that sort of mantra about them, to be honest.
And I think the other thing is the fact, the reputations of both clubs really go against us. No matter whenever we play or whoever we play, the reputation sticks. And unfortunately, it will forever be around because people will remember their bad days. But the fans have that mutual respect for each other, because as much as we had groups that wanted to go and have a bit of a should we say a jolly, they had always got respect for each other as well, and that's something that will never disappear. And
without doubt.
You mentioned as well the past few games. Actually, it's interesting the reading, because you're right. We the past 5 we've actually drew 3 of those past.
Have we
5.
drawn 3 of the last 5?
And they were 1-1s as well, so it's close games.
Not surprising. Not surprising.
1-1. And then it's 1 win each as well out the back of it from the past 5. So it's close. It's hard to separate the teams, and we're both going into, well, arguably we're both fighting for our lives. It's strange.
Yeah.
I didn't expect us to be there, and I didn't honestly expect you to be there either.
I didn't either.
You've got a bit of a bounce though. Harry's coming back. I mean, come on, he is Millwall through and through, and he seems to be helping you pick up a little bit.
He is, and we've spoke about this on that Millwall podcast, that the reason Harris left before was because the style of football wasn't very good, and we started to fall away from the pack, and that's why Harris ultimately mutually agreed to leave the club. What he saw was the right time, and we saw it as the right time as well. Great manager for us, got us up promotion, back-to-back playoff finals in League One. Right. Great player as well, Mr. Millwall, as you say. But this time around was different. This isn't about style of play, about tactics or moving into this passing out from the back. Joe Edwards was meant to be that guy. I believe the right hire at the wrong time. Should have been a deal that was done in the summer, so that he had time to work with. But we've said it on the pod that this hire with Neil Harris was not about playing style. It was about purely we're going to war for 13 weeks. Who is there that can take you into the battlefield and give everything for the shirt? And no one knows the club better than Harris. No one gets the mentality better than Harris, and no one can install belief in this team more than Harris. And so far, 7 points from 9, that's a good return, as considering the teams that we've played. 2 away games, 1 at home. It's a very good return. But we'll touch on a little bit more tactically, I imagine, later on in the show. But yeah, it's I'm happy for different reasons for Harris because of like I just said, leading us into battle. But long term, not too sure yet.
And it's interesting when we think again, you go down the managerial routes and look at the season for Birmingham. And when we start with John Eustace, who, didn't hit the ground running, but when he got the team going to get us into the position where we were in the league, and then to get sacked, for me, Wayne Rooney was never a fan's favourite, and I won't say it was every single fan. There was a proportion of fans that were like, okay, we'll give him a go. But unfortunately, he did something that Neil Harris hasn't done at your club. He came back to you and he adapted himself to the fans. Yeah. Wayne Rooney came into Birmingham and he didn't start off the way that he should have done, which was, okay, I've got an element of the fan base that are not happy. What can I do to get them on side? And he didn't do it. So therefore, in the end, he lost everybody, and fan power is huge, and that's what cost him his job. I think that people would have stuck behind it, but he lost the fans, and at that point, that was it. And
do you think that he could have, though, Craig? Because I paint Birmingham fans in this exact same bracket as I paint Millwall fans, as I've just said. If once the fans turn at a club like Birmingham, a club like Millwall, it's turned, and that's it. And you need gold-plated boots to get yourself out of it. Now, I was shocked when Eustace was fired from his job at Birmingham, because you're sitting 6th in the league, and I just had this vision of this is Gary Rowett at Birmingham all over again. Is he going to get you over the edge, sitting 7th in the league, and then all of a sudden it goes sort of south, should we say? And it was the same with Eustace, and now Tony Mowbray's there, who for me, if Tony Mowbray was on the market when we made our managerial change, Tony Mowbray would have been one of the top candidates I would have had on my list. Knows the Championship better than most in that Neil Warnock bracket of managers in the Championship. Very hard and manager, suits a club like Birmingham. You've got a bit of an issue with him out at the moment, which we'll touch on in a little bit when we do our predictions. But yeah, it's been a sort of roller coaster up and down for Birmingham at the moment. But do you think that has something to do with like the ownership?
I think the owners always had. They always had the aspiration. I firmly believe they always had the aspiration to change the managerial situation. It happens though, doesn't it? With every club, you get new owners, and 99% of the time they've got either somebody lined up or they've got somebody in mind. Now, would Wayne Rooney have come in the summer? Potentially, if he wasn't contracted, I believe out in America, then I think he would have come away. But he wanted to try and take DC forwards. Now, there were rumours and speculations the few weeks before anything ever occurred that he was coming. In fact, it was the previous international break. And everybody's like, no, it's not going to happen. It's all rumour. But actually, I think he was approached at that point in time. If perhaps things may have changed if he'd have started the season and been able to bring players in that he wanted. What he did ultimately was come into the club. He had a desire to play a certain way, but he didn't have players to play that way. And he tried to change chalk to cheese, and it just wasn't going to happen. And when that occurs, and you start losing the games, and not just losing them, but losing them badly. We were poor. Then he was never gonna turn people around. And at Leeds, which was the ultimate downfall, to have the fans singing "It's time to go" to your manager, just knew. You just knew what was on the cards. And I do think the owners have learned. The appointment of Mowbray is great. He has brought the fans back together. He has got a team that are far from world beaters, playing half decent football when they can. And I mean, we've had 2 games now where, I can say it because we don't get into trouble, but the standard of officiating, which I know no doubt you've experienced as well, has been unreal. We sort of sending off at the weekend, which to me, yellow card at the very most. And last night against Hull City, I mean, I've seen the video now so many times. Yeah, didn't just hit the ball once. He actually, it was almost he was playing basketball with it. He tapped it twice. And
it was Thierry Henry versus Ireland all over again, wasn't it?
Indeed. And it wasn't, you see, the other thing is it wasn't missed by one person. It was missed by 2. And this was the same as the red card. It was missed by 2 people. It was that side of the pitch. So there's just no excuse. And
I agree.
For the sake of football across the board, no matter what league, things have to improve. And until they do, we are unfortunately going to be in a situation where there are teams scrapping for their lives because poor decisions have been made or things missed. So, EFL.
I agree with that. I agree with that wholeheartedly, and I do firmly believe that clubs like Birmingham, clubs like Millwall, do fall on the sword when it comes to refereeing decisions, because there's a lot of ex-Premier League clubs, when they come down, there's the aura or the sort of belief that, it's Premier League royalty, they're looked after. The fans, obviously, the passionate fans that Birmingham and Millwall have, they're very known for getting on the referees' backs, they're very known for getting on the linesmen's backs, and it probably does rile them up. Now, you're absolutely right in what you said, that stuff needs to improve. Does it need to improve to the point of what we're seeing in the Premier League at the moment with the changes there with stuff like VAR and stuff like that? I'm not on board with something like that, but a better quality, better trained, perhaps some sort of reparations for Premier League referees maybe dropping down as well, which we have seen hasn't always worked out. But I'm in full agreement with you. There's decisions that even within the same game that are completely blatant one end and the same the other end, and one's given, one's not, and it seems to always be the team that's struggling that doesn't benefit from that, and it has become very painful for clubs like Birmingham and Millwall, because these games are massive. Indeed. Staying in the Championship is huge. Next year, the financial situation changes in the Championship. The TV deals change, which means out of, I think, the 150, don't quote me, 150 odd games that are going to be shown live in the EFL, 140 of them are going to be Leeds United, which normally pans out like that. So there's so much ramifications and, things that can go wrong for clubs like Birmingham and Millwall that are at the moment pushing their weight down at the bottom end of the Championship that you don't see at the top end. And it's become a real problem over the last few years. And I totally agree with everything you just said.
We talked about some of the players actually there, and the crossover between the clubs. It was interesting when I did some delving, because some of the players I could recall, crossing over the divide as such and playing for against each other at times as well. So, most recently, of course, Michael Kiftenveld, who at Birmingham, there was no guy that had an engine like him. He just continued to run and was never afraid to put his foot in. And, I still remember his first minute tackle, which was, it was one of those that it was, I'm coming after you, against our local team, the other side of the city, whose name I will not mention. But we've also had people, I don't know what it is, but Millwall seem to have a fascination for Birmingham City goalkeepers. So
yes,
we've had a few crossovers. Connor Truman, most recently, but
still on the books. Yeah,
we've got good old Mike Taylor. Mike Taylor's part of the coaching at Birmingham.
I love Mike Taylor. I thought he was a bit too old when he did come to us towards the end of his career, but when he was asked to step in, he was brilliant. He was such a great professional.
Yeah.
You know, he gave everything he could. He was brilliant, Mike Taylor. Really enjoyed him down at Millwall.
True gent, and also, you know, friend of our show. He's one of the people that's been on, and we quite often exchange messages with still today. So he is a true gent, like you're saying. The other one is Colin Doyle as well, who came to yourself, but didn't just stay there with goalkeepers, but you love our midfielders as well.
A lot of midfielders.
Yeah, Shane Ferguson. I know he was only on loan at Birmingham, but he was great when he moved over to yourselves.
Fantastic for us. Really good player.
Yep. Paul Tate, Mr. Birmingham City himself.
Now that's probably that's one of the biggest shocks on the list, I think, from your end.
It was. I got to say, when I looked at it, I was like, did Tate really go there? And then when I think about other players, you know, strikers, you know, Chris Wood, again, we had him on loan, and he was great for us our European year, scoring that winning goal late in Bruges. I was there, and we will not forget that one. We've got Stevie Claridge. Oh, what a guy! The one footballer. I can never understand how he never broke his ankles. Never wearing shin pads, ankles down by his boots, and you know, but he still turned it on.
The shortest manager in Millwall history, I think he was. I think he lasted one game.
I was going to say, when I looked at it, because it come up managerial side of things, so I was like, Cleggy was there for how long?
I think he lasted one game, Cleggy. But yeah, great Millwall legend. You know, he was great for us.
We've got players as well that haven't been so good. Oliver Burke. That's all I'm saying. He is
honestly,
closest to Birmingham.
The thing with Oliver Burke, some of our fan base had a massive fascination. There was some real good talent there. The pace was there. He was strong, physical, and he did suit us to an extent under Gary Rowett. It really did suit us. And he got a couple of goals, and we thought, you know, we tried to sign him again, and then he made his big move out to Germany, and then we got him back on loan, and it was just there was nothing there. There was nothing there at all. And then the talk of going, obviously, to Birmingham.
He's done nothing. He's done absolutely nothing, to the point that he can't even get in our squad now. You know,
he doesn't look interested. He's more interested in social media at the moment.
Yeah, it's exactly what our lot have said. You know, he'd rather see himself on Instagram than he would on a football pitch.
Without a doubt. And unfortunately, clubs like Birmingham and Millwall, the hard-earned fans do not like the internet to start with, let alone seeing your players on there.
We are the working folk of football, and
that's it.
What we want is triers, and every team, no matter who it is, if they see a trier, they'll stick with them. By the time that you just lose somebody, you've gone. And a couple of other names, Darren Purse. You know, what a absolute legend again for Birmingham.
Big Darren Purse,
absolute tower in defence. Yeah. And then the name goes back a fair few years. My neighbour. Left Birmingham on a high. He was actually our leading goal scorer when he left the club. Was only beaten by Trevor Francis, who he did stay very close friends with.
He's going back, Craig.
Yeah, and that's Phil Summerhill. So a name where when you go back, obviously way before your time and mine. But what we'll do, have a look at the guy, because he was a true legend for both clubs. And I will say, still talks very, very highly and fondly of Millwall. In fact, he still comes down to your games when he can, and he can get a lift down. So, no doubt we'll have a conversation before the week's out.
I often find people that have played for clubs like Birmingham and clubs like Millwall, and you know, they've had prosperous careers and they've done really well for themselves. They never forget about clubs like Birmingham or Millwall. You know, they always bring them up in the odd interview here or there, because I think they appreciate that you have to be a tough player with your mentality, not just what you put on the pitch, but you have to be able to deal with a lot mentally to play for a club like Birmingham and like Millwall. Because like we said, one game you could be the hero, the next game you're on a clock, you know, that you wanted out. So I think them sort of players that have had good careers and played at big clubs, I think they really do appreciate when they've played for clubs like Birmingham and Millwall, these hardened, old-fashioned, proper working men's football clubs that are probably out-fashioned now, but that's the way we like it, and I think they do appreciate it. You hear it a lot.
You know what I mean? I don't know whether you see it, but we certainly do, and that's the players, when they come to the club, whether they're leaving on a high or whether they're leaving on a low, the one thing is they'll talk about. But also, the players that we've had that have left on that high are still within the area. So Phil, like I say, he's my neighbour. We were talking to Michael Morrison a couple of weeks ago on the show. He's literally still living in Solihull, so he's around the corner. We have other people as well. They don't want to go anywhere because they love the cities and they love the areas that they are around. You've mentioned Gary Rowett, so I think it's the only managerial link that I could see between the two clubs.
It was, apart from Paul Robinson, who followed him out the door in coaching role. But manager-wise, Rowett, especially one with an impact on both. That's at least.
Paul Robinson's just a true legend. You know, before he come to Birmingham, there were people that he won't deny it. You know, people used to really slate him. You know, he was at West Brom. He was the hard man of West Brom, and he never was afraid to have a go. And we used to love that. We used to love it as fans because, again, you know, you get you involved. When he signed for the club, it was that short-term deal, which then ended up as a biggie. So he was great. But obviously, things have moved on. We are getting to Saturday's game, which is not a 6-pointer; it's a 9-pointer really for both of our clubs.
Yes.
So, what's your expectations of the weekend? How do you see it going, and what's your prediction?
Well, it's so tight between the clubs are so evenly matched, even down to, you know, the goals scored, goals against, the goal differences. I think there's only one in it. I think I'm just looking at it. It's like -13 Millwall, -14 Birmingham. We've conceded 48. You've conceded 56. We've scored 35. You've scored 42. 36 points Millwall, 35 Birmingham. It's 40 points Millwall, 39 points Birmingham. There is nothing in it. There's nothing in it at all. It's going to be very cagey, very atmospheric. It's going to be very hard fought. And it's going to be very tough on both teams mentally, as you just said, because it is a 9-pointer. This is huge. Both teams can't afford to go down. No club down there can afford to go down. And depending on how results go tonight, you know, QPR have got a big game. Huddersfield have got a big game. Stoke City lost last night. So it's a massive game between two championship clubs. You know, I don't think both are top tier championship clubs, I believe, top 10. So it's going to be very tight. Now, if this game was played at St Andrews and you had Tony Mowbray in the dugout, I would probably say this is a Birmingham win. You come into the Den, it's Jimmy Mizzen Day. We have Jimmy's Day annually, which is, for those people that don't know, 16 years since Jimmy sadly was unprovokedly murdered. So we have Jimmy's Day down at the Den. So emotions are going to be running high. Neil Harris notoriously just gets this club going, especially at home. We have great record when Neil's at home. The players have started to perform lately. Like I said, 7 points out of 9. I think you've got 1 win in 3 or 1 draw out of 3, something like that. Gun to my head, not just being a Millwall fan, I think that the occasion, where it's being played, the fact that Tony Mowbray isn't in the dugout, I'm going to go with a Millwall win, and I'm going to say it's going to be 2-0.
And I think, firstly, the weekend, you know, I know both sets of fans will be there and be there loud and proud. And, you know, say to every Birmingham fan that's going, you know, make sure that whenever there's any involvement for any applause or anything else, that you're actively involved as well. So, you know, looking forward to the game. I think you're right. If Tony Mowbray was there, results may be different. We got a hard-fought draw against Hull. We may set up differently, but I think we may also just start the game cautiously and see how things go. For myself, I see a draw on the book. I don't want to say 0-0 because I can't see, first of all, Birmingham keeping a clean sheet. But we are popping up with the odd few goals. So
yes,
I'm going to go again, as I did for the whole match. I'll go for 1-1 and a hard-fought 1-1. But hopefully it's the rocket that we both need to get out the positions we are in the league. And at the end of the season, you know, I want to see us both playing each other again next season. I don't like losing these types of games. I'm fed up of getting the travelling down to Plymouth. And,
Yeah,
and
I don't like
you
losing
know.
to Birmingham, but I like playing Birmingham. These are the games I want to play against.
Yeah.
I don't want to go and play Carlisle. I'd rather go to Birmingham. You know, as we've reiterated a few times now, these are the fans, the atmospheres. These are great games to be a part of, from not just a player, but from a fan's point of view. And all these are one of the games on the calendar you look for when the fixture list comes out. You know, so yeah, it would. But it is a massive 9-pointer. But like I said, if Mowbray was in the dugout, I'd be a little bit more worried.
It's going to be an interesting one. And, Jay, thank you very much indeed for joining us on Tilton Talk. And here's to a great game and a weekend. Both sets of fans behaving themselves, enjoying the banter, having the fun. And hopefully, let's share the spoils rather than losing each to.
Hopefully, the results go our way tonight, and we can both settle on a draw. No, thanks for having me on, Craig. I really appreciate you having me on, and Blues fans, when you travel down, have a safe journey and have a safe journey back home as well.
Fantastic. Thank you very much. And as always, as a sign off, keep right on.